Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
I believe I can fly.
Would you even say you could touch the sky?
I think about it every night and day.
Well, that went sideways super quick. Wow. There you go.
I'm good, man. It's a beautiful day out. I'm going to go be on my back porch as soon as we're done doing this. And then that's it. So I'm happy.
Then, good. Well,
nap.
That actually sounds good. We just had a conversation with John Abbracciamento, who is about to, well, by the time that this airs, will have been for about a week and a half, officially a former member of the President's Own Marine Band. I will be attending his retirement ceremony in 2 days, and pretty exciting stuff. He had a 27-year run, which is incredible.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
he only beat me by 20 years.
Yeah,
it was close. It was neck and neck.
It was neck and neck until it wasn't.
I had a head start even.
It is pretty funny when we figured that out. You got in 91, he got in 92. You got out two lifetimes ago, and he's getting out on Friday. So it's pretty funny when you think of it that way. So
he's got a very normal, he definitely has coping. He's figured that out. He's got a great, healthy approach to the whole thing, which you'll hear.
He always has since I've known him, which is for quite a while here in the D.C. area. So, yeah, we're both huge sports nuts, and so we've got that in common. And, yeah, we've very rarely, although you're going to hear a little bit about one time when we talked about music, and it was so good I started literally taking notes and made a blog post on my blog, which is linked to in the show notes. So that's at andrewhitz.com. But, yeah, but generally we're just talking about sports, and I'm telling him how I hate all of his New York teams, and he's telling me how he hates all of my Boston teams. So
it's true. Hey, you know what else is in the show notes, Andrew?
What's that? What else is in the show notes, Lance?
There's a link to the Mary Papert School of Music in beautiful and sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can find out about all of the wonderful things that are happening in the brass area there, who teaches, what ensembles you can play, and what sorts of experiences you can have by clicking on that link. We would like to thank them not only for being a sponsor, but for bringing into our orbit the lovely and talented Jim in E-Cricket Nova.
Will Houchin, who produces these for us, do not edit out that 5-second pause. Don't do it.
Well, we can actually see each other, so we locked eyes. And then I wasn't sure what I was going to say.
What is in E-Cricket? You are irreparably broken. Yep, spiritually, physically, emotionally.
Thank you.
We also, speaking of spirituality, we want to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model tuba mouthpiece, which I personally find very spiritually centering. Mm-hmm. And it makes you play in tune without having to do all the work with a drone. You just play in tune automatically. It's amazing.
That's cool.
It is. And the Lance LaDuke Model euphonium mouthpiece.
I use mine to burn a piece of incense. I just sort of prop it up and good to go.
I would recommend the titanium rim for that, actually.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah, which is just a small upcharge. So you can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All right, without further ado,
what do you think about iTunes and Patreon, Andrew?
I am a huge fan of people, even though iTunes is about to die, which it needs to die. It needs to die because it's a bloated, memory-hogging, just a catastrophe of... they're going to study that software sometime well into the future, as what not to do. But for any of you who have gone to iTunes, to the Apple Podcast, to whatever app wherever you consume us, anyone who has left a rating and a review, thank you so much. That's the best way to get people to find the podcast, and also anyone that has recommended an episode to a friend. Thank you very much for that. And also patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. You can find out how you can support us and get bonus content, including Wonderful story in this next week's one where John Abbracciamento sicked his 10-year-old son on me.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one, right? In a parking lot when I'd never even met the kid. So, yeah, it's a good story. It was a good use of good return on investment of procreation there. So, all right, without further ado, let us get to the conversation that we had with trumpet player John Abbracciamento. And today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by a very old trumpet player. His name is John Abbracciamento. John, how are you?
I'm sorry you couldn't see that. I couldn't hear you. Could you? I'm going to get my ear horn. Can you say that again one more time?
Ear horn. I like it.
There are many of our listeners right now who are Googling ear horn because they don't even know what the hell that is. So
no, they don't. They don't, but that's okay.
The reason I'm calling him old, other than the fact that it's kind of fact-based, it's a date of birth thing, but is that John is retiring as we record this. He is retiring in 2 days from the President's Own Marine Band. How many years will it have been for you?
Just under 27, so it's just easy to say 27 years.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. That's quite a run. How what was Lance, what year did you get into the Air Force Band?
1991.
And so but John lasted a little longer than you did. What year did
four times as long.
Yeah.
So
wow,
what?
The math was impressive.
See, Lance is one of those guys, though. He does the math so quickly that it doesn't necessarily give you a chance to check it, which is good.
And we just go with it.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you wait for that 1 second pause, then other people can do the math and then be like, "That's not right." But if you just jump right in, then people,
that's good.
You just move right along. So, what advice would you have to Lance in retrospect for sticking around longer than the quarter of the time that you have managed?
Well, bottom line is, and you know me, that if I can stay this long, then pretty much anybody can.
I would say that's factually based.
Yeah, people are pretty surprised when I tell them what I did. People who've known me years ago. But that said, it is a wonderful organization that brings out the best in people on a consistent basis. And the colleagues I have, I can't imagine going anywhere else, having the support we do. We put everybody in the right place to succeed, and we're there for one another. So in that aspect, it's incredibly easy.
Wow, man. Is this a hostage situation?
No.
Blink 3 times if you need me to come rescue you.
That's right. It's like I'm going to date myself with that movie Marathon Man, where he says, "Is it safe?" He's going to drill through his teeth. But I'm sure none of your 3 listeners actually know that movie.
I do.
I've never even heard of it.
Older than you, probably.
Oh, that's a great movie.
That's a good one. Ooh, that's a terrible scene, though. Holy moly.
Oh, yeah. But no,
Holy molar.
I mean,
there you go.
If you can, wow, well done.
Hey, ba-doom boom.
No, but it really is. I mean, if you want to succeed, look, it's the same thing as anything else. You got to be prepared. You're going in eyes wide open. The support system is in place. You're one of 155 people. You're not number one. You know, all of us going in are probably number 155. And you go in with that mindset, and the system built in place will help you.
Talk a little bit more about your colleagues. It seems like the brass section in the Marine Band gets along really well, and there's some incredible people back there. But that's not always all that common. Can you talk a little about it?
Sure, and you hear stories in other organizations where they don't get along. And personally, I could not imagine going to work in that kind of environment. And I don't know whether we don't have a questionnaire like they do for the NFL, for the mental makeup for quarterbacks or anything like that. We seem to get people that understand the concept that you're joining a section, and our section more so than I think a lot of groups has a very homogenous sound.
Right.
I remember having a buddy of mine who was a former principal trumpet of the San Francisco Opera, and after one of our concerts on tour, he had said, if I had a brass section that played that in tune and that together, he goes, I would have never left that job. And even when I hear it, the thing is, but the funny thing is, it's hard to because you sit there and you play. But when I go to a ceremony or something that I'm not on, and I actually hear the band play, I go, wow, that band sounds good. I go, oh, wait a minute, I'm in that band. It's that it takes your breath away, but it's the way we work together. And you know some of those people. We just look out for one another. And I think part of it is, unlike many organizations, we all walk in everybody else's shoes. You could be playing a solo one day. You could be at Arlington Cemetery. You could be on a chamber music concert. You could be playing a solo on tour. Everyone has done those things, so they actually literally understand what that's like. And I think that builds tremendous support when you walk in somebody else's shoes.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does.
You seem really well adjusted for someone who's been.
Yeah, but you know what? You better. Then you know what? My suggestion is we cut the interview right now because it's only going to go downhill from here.
I liked when John and Lance have never met, and so when we first got on the call, John said, "Andrew, does Lance realize that I'm an idiot?" And my response was, well, he knows that you're a good friend of mine, so he'll give you a chance, but you're going to have to prove yourself.
Well, it's like a clock in my head. For 4 minutes, I have to be normal. Then that fifth minute just kicks in, and then it comes flying out. And I'm like, oh, why did I say that?
Well, mine's flipped, actually. I got 4.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, like the 5th minute, I say something cogent. That was it.
I don't think I've ever reached the 5th minute. Apparently, with Maestro LaDuke,
Wait, I don't get it.
We've spent a lot of time in rental cars too. But I guess I'll have to wait for that day.
Just as long as you don't run out of gas, we're okay. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, we've almost done that a couple of times on the road.
I almost ran. I did it. Actually, one of my first tours with these guys, we were driving through the desert. Were we going to or from Las Vegas? I think to. I can't remember, but I misjudged, and we just barely kind of limped our way to the gas station. It was Andrew and JD were in the car, and they would have been super easygoing and understanding about the situation and not giving me a hard time about it, and been very supportive emotionally.
Oh, especially back then, my nickname was Roll with the Punches.
That's it. Yeah. So I was sweating it there a little bit. I think we did the math. Like we were very, very close to being on E.
We had like 50 feet of leeway, I think, if I remember correctly.
Right.
That's two mathematical things you've mentioned. I'm getting very impressed. This degree must have had mathematics from MIT or something, and I'm impressed.
The key to being articulate on things like math is dropping out of master's degrees.
That's it.
Yeah, because Lance and I have done that a combined 3 times, right?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I've got 2.
Good.
So yep. So there you go. But hey, kids, stay in school and don't do drugs. So What are you going to miss the most about not playing in the Marine Band?
When I first dropped my papers, for that first week or two, you have like this buyer's remorse, because you can know when people walk up to you or you play a gig or someone you haven't seen in a long time, the question they always say, oh, what do you do? And I was always able to say, oh, I'm a trumpet player in the United States Marine Band. I can't say that anymore. Now, that's my own ego getting in the way, and that lasted about a week or two. And then after that, it was just, and I'll keep hammering this home as until you cut me off on the phone, it's my colleagues. When I can sit there, like you mentioned, Mark Jenkins, Matt Harding, Kurt Dupuis, Amy McCabe, I mean, it just keeps going. These people are tremendous players.
Yeah.
And to sit down with them and play, I never took it for granted, and I will miss just even the time I have with them. And anytime we walk on a stage, you guys, look, you've been on tour. Some venues are great, some aren't. And we'll get somewhere, and it's a bad venue for whatever reason, and the band just plays well. And you turn to one another and go, there's no way we should sound this good, but we do. And it's amazing to me. So I'll just miss my peers. They're my social circle. They're my friends. At the risk of sounding like Spock, and it's like I kind of feel like, well, you guys always have been, always will be my friends, and we are very fortunate in that aspect, and that goes throughout the entire organization, not just the trumpets, the brass, the woodwinds, percussion. We get along, and it's a great work environment.
Well, that's probably, for me as well. I'd left that band 22 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the lasting memories are of my colleagues, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the funny stuff and the ridiculous stuff, but to get to sit around the players that I got to sit among is just I don't know. That was a once in a lifetime thing, so that makes a lot of sense.
So did you lose a bet, and that's how you ended up at Hitz? I'm just trying to figure this out.
Yeah, that's what happened.
You put all your chips in. You went, oh no, I've got deuces.
No, I made my own bed. I thought that looks like fun. That was it.
Like the most dangerous sentence is, "Hey, watch this." Uh-oh.
That's right. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
So why now? Like, why did you decide to get out now?
Well, my age. When you go into any of these types of jobs, any of the service bands are all great, but you are essentially you're to make some sort of bad reference. You're a carton of milk. You have an expiration date. You know that's coming. So now you have to plan that on how old am I? What do I want to do next? How do I feel about what I'm doing, the product? So at some point you cannot, because you cannot. You could be in the New York Philharmonic and you could stay to you're 70 years old. You can't do that in this job, nor would you want to, because based on the marching and stuff that we do. So you have to pick a point. So you pick a point with your family life, how old are your kids, what do I want to do next, all these things. And, and I've been thinking about it for a while, and I said, all right, the time is now. I will say change is hard. The older you get, change is hard. But if you don't embrace that change, it can be very unsettling. Even if you do embrace it, it's still somewhat unsettling, but it has to happen.
Well, and so you mentioned a variety of factors in the thought process, and one of them was what you're going to do next. So what are you going to do next?
Now, you do realize this could technically be an exclusive because I have not told anybody what I'm going to do next. But if you want to know, I will tell you.
Of course we want to know, unless it's a big super-duper secret or illegal.
Trust me, it's really not. I've been taking prerequisite classes over the past year. Believe it or not, I took a biology class. Haven't had bio, and I had to take a math class in 40 years. Did that. Yeah, I am going to go. I will continue to play the horn. And wherever I move, I will continue to play the horn. But I am going back to school for a physical therapy assistant program. They only take 40 people a year, and I got accepted to it, and that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, wow.
And people think that. So the next question is, why that? And I've had enough, talk to my colleagues, I've had enough ailments over the years that I figured out that I have people skills. And if given the option of helping someone get better on the trumpet, which is the intrinsic value is fine and stuff, or help someone who's in pain, I've been there. I can look at that person and the same. Let me back up. Years ago, had a physical therapist said, "You do everything I ask you to do." He goes, "Patients just don't do that." I said, "Well, then you don't work with musicians, do you?" Because that's what we do.
Right.
Back when I was at the Conservatory, University of Michigan, they said, you work on this. Catalo give me stuff to do, and I would just do it. They give you more than you can work on, and somehow you get it together. And you realize hard work, some dedication on a daily basis is going to get me the results I need. It's the same thing with physical therapy. You have to look at someone's face who's in pain and say, "Okay, how do I get from point A to point B?" And you have to say, "This is the program. I'm going to do it with you side by side, but you have homework to do. Next time I see you, we're going to take it from there." And I opted for for going towards people with pain versus trumpet. I'll continue to teach and do things with the instrument, but also a PTA program like that gives them the option of saying, "I can move anywhere." Trumpet, all of us, our instruments have dictated where we've gone. This is something now that I have a little more control over my future.
Has it occurred? I'm sure it has. So is there a market for you to be a physical therapist for musicians?
Yeah, actually, that would more align. Let's see, that would more go towards what an occupational therapist does. They do that, but yes, depending on an injury, most things are injuries unless there's trauma is due to repetition. Most common shoulder issues going to be impingement because we're active, we're slouching at the computer and such like that. There are very common things, and there's very, very straight ahead approaches to solve these problems. But yeah, you can do it with with musicians. I have a friend of mine, Nancy Taylor, who used to be in the Marine Band, and she now is at OT in Texas, and she teaches down there as well. So yeah, you can. I'd like to think that I can do more, go beyond that. And actually, believe it or not, making fun of myself, I'd like to help people who may be a little bit older, where you have some, maybe if you haven't had pain in your life and you have it when you're older, that can be kind of scary. So I can look at them and say, I got you. We're going to do this.
With what you know, how long has this been an interest of yours?
Oh, gosh, 5-6 years.
Okay, so with what you know, do you see any tendencies or commonalities between, as you learn more, I would guess that you're sort of looking around the band because you're there every day and you're seeing people and how they're interacting with these instruments. Have you kind of gleaned anything about how musicians do or don't use their bodies efficiently to cause or prevent injury?
Well, like most people, it's not until you have pain that people say, oh, you know what? My posture or something like that is not as efficient, or I see people standing there. And I've had 2 lower back procedures done, and everybody would always, bust my chops. Then, because I actually take a yoga mat with me on tour, I set it up the night before I go to bed. I roll out of bed, have a cup of coffee, and I do my core exercises. Now, as these guys and gals are starting to get a little bit older, they come to me and say, "Hey, can I do those with you?" And I say, "Sure, absolutely." And I always say, if I had known about these exercises when I was their age, I probably would have never had those procedures needed. So usually, it's posture. I mean, when we're standing up and we're outside and we're at attention, sure, everybody looks good. But just like any group, I won't walk up to anybody and say anything. But if they happen to ask me about it, I practically have my own parking spot at Walter Reed. So when I set up shop at work, people come up to me, tell me their ailments. I'm like, all right, here we go. But yeah, I mean, you look around the room, most musicians, you look at an office space. I guarantee you walk into any building in DC right now and someone's hunched over, a computer the wrong way. Sitting is the worst thing for your spine.
Right.
That's why they have those desks now for standing. I mean, that's the sitting is compression on the spine. So I'm no expert.
Well, you are. As a matter of fact.
Only because I have pain.
That's the point I was going to make is that I remember I was in a concert band in the Air Force, but I was doing plenty of ceremonies, and all the folks in the ceremonial band took, you're standing all the time, and so not everybody, lots of folks had lower back pain, had problems with their feet, problems with their legs. The notion of which shoes and what kind of insoles and all that stuff is incredibly important, because you're just standing for hours and hours and hours at attention frequently, which is not necessarily conducive to free-flowing posture.
The shoes are really the starting point. Those core frames were awful. And I've tried, and I came up with a different inserts, orthotics that I like. Yeah, but that standing is not, the body's meant to move. Whether we're sitting or just standing, it's really, we want to move. That's why if you have any kind of back pain or something after you've seen a doc and you've seen the right thing you're supposed to do, they encourage you to walk. Something just simple as walking, keeping the body in motion, works. So, like I said, I've had pain. The best, that's funny, because on Friday I have to give remarks, which, will probably 99% Yankees. So that's the reason why Andrew won't be there. But, I do have some couple of Red Sox jokes in there, just so you know. But the very first person I'm thanking is my neurosurgeon, who I'm personal friends with now. He's retired from the Navy. And it's not the procedures that he's done on me. It's the ones that he talked me out of. He taught me that, you can look through pain. The body has a way of healing itself. You do certain things, the body will take care of itself. But we lean towards, medicines or, painkillers, things like, and such. But he taught me that, hey, this is manageable. You will get through this. And so that's the reason why, for all those years I was able to get through it at my age.
Really interesting.
So are you planning on staying in the DC area, or you're going to move, or that's TBD?
No. I'd like to. Well, I'd like to say it's not TBD, but it probably is. In a perfect world, maybe 3 or so years, and then we'd like to move. I'd go up north. I don't think my wife wants to go up north. So I think in a perfect world, I'd live in like Madison, Wisconsin, Ann Arbor, Minneapolis, Western Massachusetts. I like it in the cooler weather up north. Realistically, I see us probably doing something like North Carolina. Out west, out in Asheville. I like it. I love it out there. I like the people, the climate, the mountains.
Come to the Berkshires, man.
Oh, my God. Hey, John Perkel?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming for my retirement.
There you go.
So I'll have some sort of Sandy Koufax joke in there because it'll just drive him nuts, and then he won't remember anything I say the rest of the time. Oh, yeah. I mean, John's coming down, so it'd be good to see him. Oh, yeah, and he lives out in the Berkshires. No, it's beautiful out there. I would live there in a heartbeat.
So
but if I had my own private island, like some people do,
sure.
which I've never received an invite to. But other than that, okay.
You're invited anytime. It's just that I know that you'll be wearing a Yankees hat, and I will not pick you up at the dock if you're wearing that thing. So it's like I was just trying to do you a favor to avoid having you drive 7.5 hours and then not have a way to get to your bed for the night. That's all.
Well, my biggest fear is that on that from the dock to the island, you take the tuba out and start practicing. And I'd be like, now what am I going to do? And it's like, now you know what? Overboard does not look so bad.
I'm gonna.
I was a Marine.
I'm gonna play all music that's written for B flat trumpet. I'm gonna play it in concert, treble clef, so it's the wrong key, and I'm gonna play it faster than I can. So other than that, it'll be great.
Well, then you're going to sound like Hiram. Did you hear Hiram the other night? Just killed it.
I did hear a clip of it. He is. He's. Oh
my gosh.
He's terrifying. Yeah.
He is, and he's a great guy.
Well, he's going to be on. He's going to be on here actually. Hopefully, very soon. We've been talking for a couple of years about getting him on here, and I was actually literally going to reach out to him later today. So yeah, he will hopefully be impending.
And he's a great guy. Once again, I'll keep going back to these are the people I work with. You can tell a lot about a person by the company they keep. Well, that's the company I keep, and that's right. It's just it doesn't get better than that.
Right. The oldest that I have ever felt on a gig was I was playing Easter a couple years ago with Joe Bergstaller and with Hiram and a few other people, and Hiram told me, I told him that he sounded great, and he told me that I sounded great. It's the usual thing, like you're great, no, you're great, no, you're great, no, it's enough about you. Let's talk about me some more. But he had just started playing the trombone, and he sounded fantastic. But anyway, he said, man, I got to tell you, he said it's a real trip for me to be playing in a quintet with you and Joe because I grew up listening to you guys play in Boston brass and Canadian brass, and I was like, man, like this guy has been in the President's Own for like a number of years now, and it started at this really, really awesome compliment. It's an honor to be playing in a quintet with you, and then it's because you're old and I can't believe I'm here with you. And I was like, yeah, we Mel Brooks calls that a complisult, where it starts as a compliment and then it ends.
Right.
It's in an insult. I was like, cool, man. Thanks.
Yeah, but you know what? The one thing about him, if I said something like that, you'd know, okay, this guy's being a pain in the ass. But with Hiram...
Oh, no, he was being very genuine. No, he was being very genuine. Yes, he was. It was flattering. So, yeah, it was... and man, does he sound good. It's, he is easy to play in octaves with, I can tell you that much. So, yeah.
2-3 years ago, he did a duet on tour with Amy, and it was just, all right. There, and the encore was even better. So it's just... Nope, once again, I'll keep going back. I'm going to keep dropping names of people I work with because those are the people you should know, not me. You should know them. They're great.
Yeah. You do. I played Easter for a number of years with Amy. That's the coolest thing about DC is you get to play with people like that. It's just you just show up for random gigs, and then there's like, oh yeah, there's Amy McCabe. For a couple of years out at the National Cathedral, the trumpets were for Easter were Amy McCabe and Josh and Josh Strong. That's Jeff's twin brother, and Jeff Strong, who and it was unbelievable. I mean, it sounded like one trumpet player. Like the unison stuff, It was just all it literally sounded like a person. And they both look like they're sleeping while they play in a good way. I mean, just everything's so efficient, and that's one heck of a section.
But, so if Jeff ever hears this, the reason why I have to say this is, and this is important, is that everyone needs to know that Jeff tells the worst jokes. They are god awful. And you look at him and go, really? Is this the best you got? No, it's just awful. I love him. I just spoke to him the other day. His jokes are awful. You just need to know that if you have any conversation with him.
I just spent the weekend with him actually out at Northwestern for the celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Symphonic Wind Ensemble, and it was this crazy long concert with 200 alumni that came. But Jeff played lead on the Strauss Feierlicher, and it was. It was just stunning what was coming out of his bell, and he told me how uncomfortable it was. It was a little bit slower than he would like ideally, and it sounded like the trumpets that they talk about in the Bible. I mean, it was just like everything was just, oh my goodness, it was great. What a great time. So he's a good
now. My
dude.
other question, okay, so that you brought up, did you have a conversation with Jen Murata, because she's got to be like the funniest person on earth?
We have, and I know you've listened to every episode of the Brass Junkies, so you obviously just don't remember. But yes, she was there this weekend as well, and yes, we have interviewed her. She's great, and we are going to be interviewing her. We're going to be interviewing her husband soon, and I actually asked her what we should ask him to bust on him, and her eyes lit up. She said, "Ooh," she said, "Let me think about that."
Oh yeah.
So yes, the
Tom is brilliant.
Yep, yeah. So that's going to be fun.
Literally brilliant.
Yeah. So, but and I actually don't know him, but everyone I've ever spoken to says he's just the most genuinely humble, down to earth. But it'll be good to. I'm sure he gets a lot like you're the greatest thing ever. So it'll be good for us to be throwing some like inside digs coming from within his house. So just to keep him on on the back of his heels. So.
Oh, absolutely! You got to knock him down a peg. No, but Tom is because even when Tom first got in the band. In fact, I'll tell you. He also studied with Catala. When he won the audition, Catala called me and says, "Look, this is a keeper. This one's really good." He goes, "Keep an eye on him for me." And sure enough, Tom, I mean, that's a heck of a backing to have.
Right.
But Tom was like a boxer. He would figure things out while he's playing a solo, and he'd make the necessary adjustments. And you're thinking, he hears it. He hears it differently. We think, what makes talent? Look, we replicate what we hear. That's why you say coffee. That's why I say coffee. Because it's what we hear, but yet we spell it the same way.
Right.
Tom hears things on a different level, and then he allows the body to do what it has to do. No, he's remarkable. He's absolutely remarkable.
What was it like studying with Catala?
Loved it. And he was the finest musician probably I've ever met in my entire life. I had the pleasure of studying with him in Boston, and then when he went to University of Michigan, I followed him there. And it was different because when he would come from Boston Symphony rehearsals versus being a little more relaxed out in Ann Arbor. But I've always enjoyed his playing because to me it was always lyrical. It's funny. If I have a pencil in my hand, that is it's a writing instrument. People seem to forget what we would talk about. A trumpet. It's a musical instrument. So that musical doesn't get enough attention. But with him, he always had it, and his playing was gorgeous and it was expressive. You had to be able to solfege. You had to be able to sight read, just like Vacchiano. He would hear like the first 10 minutes of your lesson. Then the rest of the 45, 50 minutes or so, was sight reading the next lesson and transposing at the same time. And you got used to it. You think there's no way I could do this. But eventually you would do it just. And he had a warmth about him. He loved to cook. He was just a very giving person. And I still go back and listen to recordings now. His playing is sure what you would call a stylized approach, but I personally like that. I like being able to hear differences in playing. It's the variety. We don't want to hear somebody play something exactly the same way twice.
Right.
You wouldn't eat the same same thing for dinner every night. And he was just, you'll never hear anybody say anything negative about him.
Right. Wow.
I loved it. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I'm reminded of a class that I took at Northwestern with Vince Chikowitz, where it was all about orchestral styles from around the world. Like the whole quarter was him playing us clips from various orchestras in different parts of the world, and just talking about the characteristic sounds of different both regions, but then specifically orchestras with relationships with either styles of music or specific composers. And it was really, I think there's a lot lost now. I think it's especially with the internet, and you can get every recording everywhere now. That it's largely homogenized, right? I mean, I kind of miss the days when when nobody sounded like Roger Voisin, but that's okay. You know, I mean, like,
Yeah.
or Guitala, or
look,
etc.
I agree. You used to be able to put a recording on, and you can tell by you made the first trumpet, the principal oboe. You could hear something that I can identify. Well, first of all, is this an American orchestra or a European orchestra?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can easily begin to narrow it down. Look at the players you had back then, whether it be Catarabic, Herseth, Guitala. I mean, it's just, and they were different sounds, and they were all accepted. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, yeah, you know what? Everything has come central. Everybody sounds good. Well, take that back. Everybody sounds great.
Right.
But yeah, there is a certain neutral, whatever. Maybe that's what conductors want. Generally, we will go towards the conductors have changed, so it makes sense that the sound should change.
Right.
So I don't know that many people outside of DC would know what a retirement ceremony or process is like. Would you kind of go through? So this happening.
Sure.
We're recording this on a Wednesday, and so your retirement is Friday.
Friday morning, 1100.
And so 1100. So can you talk us through what happens?
Well, the first thing is you got to have good food afterwards, and I told you that I've got food coming from the Italian store, so get that taken care of. Our ceremonies are a little bit different from some of the other groups, and I think it's really well done. There's a band on stage. I come out with the director. They march the colors in. They play the anthem. The colonel speaks, and then you have one or two people in the organization speak. Chris Clark is going to speak, and then so is Kurt Dupuis. And then it's my turn, and that's when I usually recommend at that point, open the doors, go eat now. But I will say that it's to their advantage that I speak very quickly, so my part should go quicker than everybody else's. But we really we pay homage to what this organization is. There is a tradition, the way the Marine Band being the oldest continuously performing ensemble. You know, there is a way that we do things. History is mentioned. Your contributions are talked about, but always encompassing the whole. You know, and then so when I speak, I'm going through my remarks. 90% of what I'm talking about is thanking the people or the ensemble. Very little is about me, which is very rare. So, it's no need to talk. People already know me. So
right.
It's a very respectful ceremony. It's well done. Usually lasts about an hour, and there's a great reception afterwards. And then real life kicks in. Then I have to actually grow up.
Do you?
Yeah. Well,
that's still optional.
I often say that you're only young once, but you can't be immature forever.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. I can help you out.
Well, I would want to change. That's the missing ingredient.
What's your go-to thing at the Italian store?
Chicken parm. Love the chicken parm. I really, really do. It's just they do it right. I mean, their pizza's good, but it's hard to match the kind of pizza that I like. But the chicken parm, everyone's gonna like their meatball subs. That's pretty good too. But I would go chicken parm on the hard roll. They have a choice of a hard roll and a soft roll. At my age, you think I'd probably going towards the soft roll, but I still go towards the hard roll. I beat you to that one. I couldn't help it. You set me up.
It was
too easy.
No, you're streetwise. Yeah, you're good at it preemptively. It's like issuing an intentional walk with first base open and Barry Bonds up. You just no, actually, you just go stand over there. So
don't. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation that changes in baseball. If you want to get me irritated, we'll keep talking about those. So.
What about not having to throw the 4 pitches? You mean?
Well, I don't mind, but also next year they're going to say that a pitcher comes into the game has to face at least 3 batters. I'm sorry, that's wrong. That's why you save a guy for that one element. You bring in that lefty, and you have to pull the trigger at the right time in the game. Is it the 6th inning? In the postseason, sometimes you'll see it in the 5th inning, or do you wait to the 8th or 9th inning? And so, if you have to face 3 hitters, does that mean the offense can pinch hit, or they have to keep with their? You bring in the guy to face 3 hitters, but if they now bring in pinch hitters to compensate, then it's defeated. So we could talk more about that than the mouthpieces, trumpet, and all that kind of stuff. It's just they're a product that's been around for a long time, and it's great. Stop messing with it.
I will say it gets a little annoying once September 1st when the rosters expand to 40, and then there are 13 to 15 pitching changes occasionally per side. It gets a little it can get a little
no, absolutely
get a little long in the tooth.
you've changed the game at that point. And, and if you're in a pennant race, even if you're a team that's out of it, you can knock somebody else out because you've expanded your roster, or for whatever reason, guys are facing pitchers they've never seen.
Right.
It changes the game, yeah.
Man.
Wait, what happened?
Before we leave baseball, though, I think it's a crying shame that Pedroia is not playing. And if he retires without playing another game, that's sad.
Yeah.
That guy is one of the handful of guys you point to since I started watching the game and say, that's the way you play the game.
Yep.
So I'm bumming.
Yeah. It's not looking good. He's tried coming back for a few years now, and ever since Manny Machado slid in a disingenuous manner into second base. But I'll stop talking about him before we have to slap an explicit tag onto this episode here.
Right. We got to be careful. Yeah, understood.
Yep. So, and which is fine. We just haven't gone there yet. So, all right. So, getting this thing back on the tracks here. That's the shortest. Lance, you just experienced like the shortest by a factor of 10 times over the shortest baseball conversation that John and I have ever had. So, see, Lance is thinking that was long, but that was actually super short.
No,
hey, where's Doug Whitaker? We need him, right?
Right.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, Doug. So the you and I were I hate admitting this, but you and I like 5 years ago now almost were having lunch, and you started talking about freelancing in New York, and you were saying such good things that I actually started taking notes, which was like literally we were just eating hamburgers, and then it was really good, and it became a blog post, which Lance is going to throw into the show notes. But and there's some really good stuff in here. But one of the quotes that jumped out at me that you said was that day was, I got a lot of calls for two reasons. One, I can keep my mouth shut, and two, I can almost immediately match anyone else's playing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I know right now you're doubting number one, but actually I was able to do that.
No, I bet you've got social awareness. You just choose not to use it around me.
Well, you bring out the best in me. What can I say? In a place like New York, you on any given night, you can go hear somebody play, and you say, that's the greatest concert I've ever heard, that's the greatest violinist I've ever heard. Then you hear somebody else the next night, and you go, that's the greatest trumpet I've ever heard. And eventually, contractors hear you, they hire you, and your job is to go in there and just make somebody else sound good, because it's rare that you're going to go in there and get the call, say, first time someone sees you, I need you to play principal on this, or you're going to sub on this show and play lead. It could happen, but it's rare. So your job, think about if you went to a foreign country, you went to a reception. You wouldn't walk in and just do what you do. You'd probably sit back, look around, and say, okay, what's the custom here? Right. And then just try to blend in.
Yep.
The same thing with the horn is that when you go in, and I didn't do this right away, and there were a couple of times where I stepped in, and I had gotten some calls to the Philharmonic, and they play a very unique way, and I would start doing that in some other kind of jobs, and that was not appropriate. And someone would say, hey, look, you can't do that here. That's not going to fit. And, this way was also a really good way of doing it. So I, through trial and error, you kind of figured out, wait a minute, I've got to be, flexibility is not necessarily, glistening between notes or such. It's, all right, this might be the same piece, but I'm playing with a different group. Can I make the adjustment right away? Right. And so I was fortunate that I could just blend, go in, and people like that. So my job was to go in there and, support that section, whatever it was, make them sound good. And I realized that, wait a minute, if there's an orchestra, they're going to have 3 or 4 trumpets in a section. Well, I've got a much better chance of being called second, third, and fourth than maybe first. I wanted to increase my odds of work.
Right.
So it became the ability to we were born to copy. Like I said, I go back to what I said before. You and I spell coffee the same way, but I say it a certain way because I heard someone say it. So if I can go in there, use the body the way it's designed to be used, hear that sound, get out of the way, let the brain, say, okay, this is what it sounds. Now, the human body is amazing the way it works, and the ability to copy. If that's what we do naturally, why do we tend to short circuit that with doubt? We have a lot of doubt in our head. So I went in right away, can hear people, was able to copy it, and it worked out for me. I was very grateful.
Well, you're a lot more intelligent than Andrew let me know before this.
No, it's only smoke and mirrors. I know you can't see either, but it really is only smoke and mirrors.
And he's usually a dumbass in my direction, so in my defense.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, that's really, I mean, that's a whole lot in a short amount of time. You've actually found the sweet spot of our show, which is we try to toe the line between complete BS and content.
Right. Or being called a dumbass. I mean, I'm good either one. So
yeah,
my favorite part is when we're trying to be jackasses and it's actually good content. But even better is when we're trying to make good content and it just turns out that we're being jackasses.
No.
Right.
We don't always have an accurate assessment of which side of that line we're on. But we do tend to go at least on a little on both sides for each episode.
Right.
So, your whole outlook on this is reminding me of a story about Rich Kelly, who I'm sure that we've shared this on the podcast. We probably shared it on his episode, but I heard him tell this story many times when he was in Boston Brass and Masterclasses, where he was summer after his freshman year at Juilliard. He was playing a gig in Central Park in the middle of the summer, and it was like, it was one of those like 100-degree, like where New York City goes from the greatest city in the world to being a place that is just awful. It smells. It's like it's not a pleasant place. And anyway, he was just playing all third trumpet, just that for a couple hours, and a lot of people were complaining, and he wasn't. And the woman who was next to him playing second trumpet, I don't remember her name, but she told him that he sounded good, and he just said thank you. And then like maybe a half an hour later, she said you sound really good, and he just again he said thank you. And then she said, have you ever wanted to play on Broadway, or have you ever played on Broadway? And he said nope. Then she said, would you like to? And he said yep. And then he said, wait, who is this woman? Well, it turns out that this woman, who was also obviously a player, she was the contractor for Kiss of the Spider Woman, and this young kid was surrounded by people with bad attitudes, and he sounded amazing. I'm sure he had a good attitude the whole time. And in general, important people don't, even trumpet players, don't necessarily shake your hand and say, "Hi, my name's John, and I'm important, so you should be nice to me." They just say, "Hi, I'm John." And so that ended up leading to so much work that he literally got kicked out of Juilliard the very next year because he wasn't in class. Like he was gigging all day long. And so you just never know. And you can't lead from the third chair, right? I mean, you can, it's not going to end well. So, it's a very similar approaches, and from two people who can play the crap out of the trumpet. So it can be hard to do that sometimes, but also you got to remember that sometimes the people around you, it's a big gig for them, even if it's not for you.
Yeah, and it's like, no, and I think with Richie, my guess, it might have been Lorraine Cohen. She's a terrific player. I wonder if it was her. The ability, like I said, if the person's sitting up there, whether it be you're in college, you just sit next to some college kid, or you sit next to Phil Smith, it doesn't make a difference. Your ability to put them at ease enables them to play the best, and that's going to enable you to play your best.
Right.
And once again, I'll come back to what I came back before, and that's the whole thing with the Marine Band. We are there for one another, and it's just an amazing group of people. Yeah, I mean, everybody has an ego to some point, but it's making that ego working with everybody else, and it's just, I was going to say, that's what I'm really going to miss.
Mm-hmm.
I miss that about playing with Lance.
Yeah, well,
he always put me at ease.
I always put him at ease. That's why they called me the helper.
But I hear so many players though, and it's like where's that music part of it? Have some fun, You hear younger players, I think everyone's so worried about notes or whatever, and it's like, go play for someone like Dave Federle, and you have the time of your life. Trust me, you will have the time of your life.
Right.
Vince Penzarella was the same way. Just make music, and again, the body has a way of figuring it out. If you're trying to teach, like when I coached the Little League for both of my kids, you say, well, this is how you hold the bat. No, you can't do it that way, because then they're squeezing it like they make it orange juice, But how do they experience things? Well, how would you tell somebody what chocolate tastes like if they've never had it before? You can't. You got to let them experience. So through trial and error, you give them a good role. You give them a good visual, or in our case, a sound concept, and then things begin to kick in. There's a reason why you'll see whatever instrument your son picks up. When they go to elementary band, it's going to be probably the worst thing you've ever heard in your life. But all of a sudden, two kids start taking lessons, and the entire band changes because people go, oh, that's what it's supposed to sound like. If
Right.
parents don't play that kind of music on a regular basis, the only thing they can judge it on is their peers. But if someone sounds really good, they're going to go, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know it could do that. And then it's very infectious.
Yep.
Yeah,
Can
boy.
you picture me teaching? Maybe I should be in elementary school and just keep yelling at these kids. I don't know. I don't know if that would really work.
Yeah, that's what makes the best elementary teachers, just screaming at the children.
Right. Everybody has to wear a Yankee hat to play in this band. Come on, let's go.
Ugh, yuck. Actually, I've remind me to tell a story in the bonus episode about Mr. Alessi and a Yankees hat from just like a week and a half ago. So it will it will amuse you.
I've got what? Okay.
No, I just the bonus episode you don't talk, you just listen to Lance and I tell stories. So just to be clear,
okay.
that's when we share with you.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
In my mind, I'll have a lot of responses though.
As will the audience.
Yeah.
So, and I also, I just mentioned this SWE 50 celebration that I was just at Northwestern, and the level of players was again, it was stunning, but also just everyone playing the role that they needed to play in the music at any given time. We did I had never even heard of this piece. It was by Prokofiev called An Ode to the End of War, which was originally written for wind ensemble with like 4 harps and 4 pianos, and it was. But the trumpet section was Ryan Beach was playing first, Ethan Bensdorf was playing second, and Michael Martin was playing third. Which is it's a pretty good section right there. But
there's no weak spots.
No, and Seth Cook was next to me on tuba, and Tim Higgins was on trombone. I mean, it was like the whole. It was Ryan Little was playing principal horn. It was this unbelievable. But the point is that the reason I'm bringing it up is because like everybody knew their role. I mean, it was like you have talked to me in the past about how important it is to make other people sound better, and there was like and if you know either of them, this isn't at all surprising, but like there was no part of Ethan's playing on second that was not doing everything he could to just make Ryan sound as good as he could on first, and the same with Michael on third, and there's just like no ego. It's just like everybody working towards the same goal, which can sadly be kind of rare actually in professional situations at times, and so when you can get there with like everybody homogeneously all going for that same goal, boy, that's feels like you're driving a race car when you can get into a situation like that.
Well, that's also a testament to the instruction they receive through the school.
Yes.
There's from the podium, from Barb and Charlie, who I only had the pleasure of meeting once. I wish I had another chance to meet them over the years. But there's, that means these guys picked up on the most important aspects of what it is to be a musician. You're not in a bubble by yourself. You've got to learn to work together.
Right.
And of those people that I don't know Ryan, but I know the other names that you mentioned, and then there's Jeff, and I know other folks, and it's just there's a professional attitude they have. They understand, how does this fit together? What's the grand scheme of thing? I'm not just one key on the piano. It's the entire instrument. So That's a testament to the school, the power of the program. That sounds like a lot of fun. Even sitting next to Seth, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, he and I have been friends for a very long time, and we'd never gotten to play together because tuba players don't really, we don't necessarily play together all that much. And
well, there is a limit of how many you're allowed to be in the same room, and then there's like a fire code or something like that. There is a
moral code,
NSA type things or Homeland Security, something, I don't know.
All right, Lance, we're going to have to slap an explicit on this because maybe my favorite part of the weekend was when I was backstage talking to Seth and Mallory Thompson, who's one of my heroes, who put this whole thing together, the whole reason why 200 people came back to Evanston for this thing. She walked up to Seth and I, and she just leaned in and she goes, "You guys are the shit," and then she walked away. And
I only had the pleasure of meeting her once at Midwest at the Hilton. She was in the elevator, and the day before I heard her conduct. It was like a high school group, and they had like 3 or 4 different conductors. She got a sound out of them unlike any of the other 3 conductors.
Yeah.
she just killed it. And I was like, I felt like an idiot. Hi, I'm John. You sound, I work with a lot of your students, but she was very sweet. She was very appreciative of the comment, and it was a pleasure to speak with her.
Yeah, she is one of my favorite humans in the whole world. Yeah, she's incredible. She gets more out of me as a musician or than anybody. I mean, she's so demanding, but in a supportive way. It's a hard line to toe, but she does it with perfection. So, speaking of perfection or recently a lack thereof, I know that our dear friend Jens Lindemann, who has been who's been undergoing some chop problems of late, we by the way, I saw Jens's incredibly talented wife, Jennifer Snow, just like a week and a half ago, and she very much enjoys the ball busting that we have been doing towards her husband. So, but anyway, we have asked over 100 people to comment on the chop problems that Jens has been having, and maybe offer some. No, it's not helping. To offer maybe it's tender love and care, maybe it's some tough love. It could
physical
be
therapy.
Yep, physical therapy, occupational, whatever. You tell us. Like, what should Jens do to get out of this multi-year rut that he's been in?
Well, first of all, it breaks my heart to hear these things about him. I actually met him when he was at Juilliard, and he probably doesn't remember that we played a thing as kids. But I've noticed over the years, it's the change of wardrobe. These shirts that really they're not tucked in. Is he trying to wear a shirt that he's living in Miami and he's 60 years old with a white belt? Or I don't know. I think if he changed it, tucked in the shirt, maybe got shirts that fit him a little better, I think that will go a long way to feeling better about yourself. Therefore, the body feels better. So I would recommend that, his lovely bride take him out and say, honey, I love it, but you got to put this on instead. So tuck in the shirt, look like a professional.
So
I never thought of that.
It's a self-esteem related issue that is directly related to his wardrobe.
Yeah, I do. I think that once you set one thing in motion, it's a domino effect. And, shirts, chops, shirt, chops. I've seen that in a lot of people, unfortunately.
What kind?
I might be able to help them.
So if a kid comes up to you, excuse me, sir, what kind of mouthpiece do you play? You're like, that doesn't matter, kid, but here are the shirts I wear.
Let me see. The shirt's a little fitted. I tuck it in. I look like a professional. You've got these semi-Hawaiian type shirts. I'm like, you got to mix it up. I don't throw a sport coat thinking, wow, I'm really looking good now. No, fix the shirt.
So speaking of shirts, one of Lance's favorite Boston Brass stories we should share right now. We got some silk shirts made for us by a tailor in Singapore. And then Lance, why don't you take it away from there?
Well, they were beautiful. They were like this, what was it? Like a satin or like a silk. They were silk. And they had like a tab collar, and they were of course purple because that was our signature color. And JD and I we had to get everybody fitted for them. We had to go pick them up. And then was it the first night, Andrew?
Yeah, maybe first or second.
In the first couple of nights, then at the intermission, Andrew's body had an adverse reaction to the shirt. And he took his shirt off at intermission, and it looked like under his purple short-sleeved silk tab collar custom fitted shirt, he was wearing a bright red short-sleeved shirt because his body reacted in such a way that
it was like hives.
He was covered in hives, which, being the support system that we were, I might have peed a little. I was laughing so hard.
Right.
But that was the beginning and the end of Andrew wearing the beautiful silk purple tab collar custom fitted shirt.
I might be familiar with those shirts. I think if you look at the tag, sometimes they have a tag around the collar at the very bottom of the shirt. You look really close, and I think it's something made by Steinbrenner Industries or something like that. I think there was some aspect to that caused that reaction.
He's still dead, right?
Yeah, but you know what? You should know. I met Oh, did I send you? I sent you the photos. I met
did.
Dombrowski.
Yep.
And John Henry at the celebration for the Red Sox.
Yep.
And Dombrowski was a great guy. We were talking trades, the whole thing, and then I told him I was wearing my Mickey Mantle shirt underneath my uniform, and he just laughed. That was a lot of fun.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, he likes trades. He dislikes prospects more than I dislike hives.
Yeah.
If he's got one, he gets rid of them. So, but that led to 119 wins last year. So that can't really argue with the results.
You'll take it when you can get it.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. You take it when you can get it.
All right. Well, this has been wonderful, John. There was even a couple of spots that were insightful and helpful. This was pretty good.
I know I probably disappointed you. I'm sorry about that. Next time if you have me back, I'll try to keep it down.
That didn't you didn't disappoint me, but that's only because I came in with shockingly low expectations. So that's
right. It's a low hanging fruit. You said, you know what? If this guy can string together two words, two sentences, more than one syllable, we'll take it.
I like the part when I don't even remember what answer you gave, and then Lance was like, "Why you just said a lot, in a really concise manner." He sounded surprised. I liked it. It was good. It's like, wow, that was articulate. I wasn't ready for that.
Every now and then, look, a broken clock is right, twice a day, so every now and then it happens.
Wait, you had to stop and think? Wait, a broken clock is right. Wait.
Let me see. I don't know.
Wait, is it digital?
All right, this is going downhill. So, which actually bodes really well for the bonus episode. I'm also going to tell a very funny story about how John used his son as a prop to bust my balls, which was really good, especially because I'd never met his son at the time, and then also this Joe Alessi Yankee hat story from 2 weeks ago, which you will appreciate. So, okay. For anybody who wants to hear the bonus episode, if you go to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies, then for as little as $1 per episode, you can get access to a bonus episode with every guest that we have. And also for different tiers, we offer monthly, a lot of bonus content. So go and check that out. And thank you to everyone who already has. And a big thank you, John, and congratulations on just shy of 27 years in the President's Own Marine Band. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray4Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/Pray4Jens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.